Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer Jewelers. Welcome in those on the Farzy Show YouTube channel as well as Jacob Media YouTube channel. We got the Phillies to discuss, the Sixers getting blown out by the Bucks, and a stroll, a trip down memory lane, courtesy of the New Heights podcast. Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce. Jason Kelce more or less interviewing, I guess, his boss. I mean, you would say it would be Jeff Stoutland and then Nick Sirianni, and then I guess the next person up would be Howie Roseman, and then after that it'd be Jeffrey Lurie. But Howie Roseman goes on the New Heights podcast and goes down memory lane when it comes to Terrell Owens. Ladies and gentlemen, when the Eagles signed Terrell Owens, when they traded for Terrell Owens in March of 2004, I thought, oh, man, this would be something you tell your grandkids about, this guy playing in Philadelphia. But I thought it'd be for much different reasons. Sure, I thought there'd be drama. Sure, I thought there'd be a show within the show, but it didn't end like that. We're still talking about it, and unfortunately, we're still talking about it only after a year and a half of him actually wearing an Eagles jersey. Here we are, nearly 20 years later, 19 years later, talking about Terrell Owens and his time here in Philadelphia. So we'll get to that. But let's start it off with our beloved Philadelphia Phillies, who began their season by getting swept by the Texas Rangers. I don't like starting out the season with interleague play. I know it's nothing that's different. I know it's just the way the game is nowadays. There's a bad taste in my mouth about starting the season off against a team that you're really not going to face much through the season. I'm not blaming that, but I am just finding a place to put my frustration because I have exhausted it already in every aspect of the Philadelphia Phillies and Philadelphia Phillies baseball through 3 games so far this season. Let's start it off with the pitching. I am done with being frustrated with the pitching already. I'm fed up with the pitching already. 29 runs allowed in the first 3 games of the season. That is no bueno. And, of course, Bailey Falter is the guy that ends up being the ace of the staff through the first 3 games of the season. I'm not saying this is dooming them for the year. Let me just say this. Like, I went on a rant last week on Friday, and people on Twitter, people on the social media networks, people in the comments, the season's done after 1 game. After 2 games, season's over. No one's saying that. No. Don't hot take the non-hot take of someone just being upset with the way the first 2 games at the time of the way the season had played out. Nobody wants that. No. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I can be frustrated in the moment. Just like if this series happened in September, I'd be pissed off. Just like this series happened in August, I'd be pissed off. Getting swept, losing 3 straight, it's not exactly the best hole to climb out of. And by the way, the Phillies are the only team in the National League that have yet to win a baseball game. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and be frustrated with the fact that the team that I root for, at least, is 0-3 to start the season. And when you get pitching, you don't get hitting. When you get hitting, you don't get pitching. So that's not how you want to start off the season, and that's the point I'm making here. Not that it's doom and gloom, just that it's upsetting. It was interesting. I was watching Kyle Schwarber yesterday after the 2-1 loss, and Schwarber finally got on the board there with a hit, which was nice. But I'm watching him after the game, and it was really difficult to tell the difference between getting swept in the first 3 games of the season and then getting no hit in the World Series. Last year, they get no hit in the World Series, we all remember. Kyle Schwarber is at his locker in the clubhouse, and he's standing there, hey, what do you think about getting no hit? Don't care. Next question, basically. Don't care. Kyle Schwarber, after losing the first 3 games of the 2023 season, standing in his locker, yeah, that's how we start things off. Like the same type of mindset, the same type of mentality, the same type of delivery. That, to me, is what you need to go through 162 games. And that's what we're all going to need to make it out of the first 3 games of this season. Just a little even temperament. Not lose our minds. Yes, we can be frustrated in the moment at specific things. Not liking the idea of an 0-3 start, especially after the hype that went into it, especially after the offseason that went into it. I mean, it's not unlike last year. You had your bumps. You had your issues last year. I remember the Phillies had to go on some ungodly run when Joe Girardi was still their manager to even try to make the playoffs. And then they make the managerial change. Rob Thompson takes over, changing the clubhouse. Garrett Stubbs comes on this show. He talks about how Philly Rob has that bleep you mentality when it comes to this clubhouse, and things turned around. I got confidence in this Phillies team still. It's not a fun beginning. It's not what we all imagined. It's not going to be all puppy dogs and ice cream for 162 games or 159 now. It's not going to be that even a little bit. It's going to be bumps in the road. This is a big bump in the road, and it's unfortunate that it's before we even got out of the driveway. What do you call it? The curtain, the skirt? What is it that meets the road from your driveway, whatever that thing's called? It's a big gap between the two. It's a big bump to pull out of the driveway to start off the season. To get into some more specifics, I think Trey Turner really summed it up in that second inning after Jung put the ball in the outfield there in the bleachers. Before he could even get a word out while being interviewed on the ESPN broadcast, before even getting a word out, hey, you signed that big contract, you said you didn't like the attention, what'd you really think of it? Well, oh no. Trey Turner was mic'd up during the game last night, and I think you could sum up every Phillies fan's emotion with the way Trey Turner just said, oh no, to get that interview started. And that is pretty on point. Look, guys had been hitting in the first two games of the series. Alec Boehm, of course, in game one. JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos in game one and game two. Yesterday, not so much when watching this last night. This is something that the Phillies just needed to get out of the way, hopefully out of their system. And yes, it does have me thinking some of the dark thoughts that my mind ventures to when it comes to all sports really in Philadelphia. And when it comes to this particular start, it does have me thinking, oh, maybe this is the year where you get Trey Turner. You don't have Bryce Harper yet. You still got to gel. You got a new starting pitcher with Taijuan Walker, who's going to be getting the start today against the Yankees. Maybe this is the type of thing that you need to kind of get out of your system, flush the system for a second, and then hopefully you cross your fingers, and next thing you know, there's a nice little winning streak around the corner for the Phillies, and that's what we'll hope for when it starts tonight at 7:05 against the New York Yankees. Phillies, as I said, are the only National League team yet to get a win. I know you scored a lot of runs in the first two games of this season, but bottom line is when you look at the way they started off, runners in scoring position over the last 2 days, 1 for 8, 2 for 9. Saturday's loss, they were 2 for 9. Yesterday, they were just 1 for 8. That's a 200 batting average with runners in scoring position over the first 3 games of the season, and 170 batting average with runners in scoring position over the last 2 games of this series. So certainly something that you'd like to see turned around when it comes to the Phils. No one's hit the panic button. Everyone's chill. Everyone's cool. And they just know it's a long season, and they're going to take that in stride. Bryce Harper did also get interviewed last night during the game, and he was, of course, in the dugout. Some good news. Now, the unfortunate beginning of this season has me, I don't know how it is for most people, but for me, I would like to get more excited about Bryce Harper coming back. To me, when Dave Dombrowski addressed the media and when Bryce Harper addressed the media already before the season started, there was already hope out there, and Larry Boa coming out and saying that, yeah, you can erase that all-star break. If that's circled on your calendar for Bryce Harper's return, he's going to be back before then. He's going to be back before then. No problem. Then Dave Dombrowski said the same thing. Bryce Harper more or less said the same thing, noted that in his career he's been a bit of a fast healer. I have already erased the idea of Bryce Harper taking as long as to the All-Star break to come back to this Phillies lineup. When he takes batting practice, he already going through his full routine. I think he is going to be back sooner rather than later. I still think he is back in May, playing baseball for the Phillies in May. Maybe as a DH, maybe that's the way it plays out. But I think bottom line is he's back in this lineup by May. The end of May, excuse me. So I've already had that news. We have already had that news. We've already consumed that news. We've already reacted to that news. So any news Bryce Harper has about when he's coming back from the injury, it only makes me think, all right, there's no setback. That's good. He's still on pace. He's still going to be back by the end of May. So I can be excited about that. So anything else that comes out about that, I've already celebrated that in my head. That's no shock. That's no surprise. That's just Bryce Harper doing very Bryce Harper things. But last night, when he's talking about the pitch clock, does not seem to be a fan of the pitch clock. When he's talking about the new rules in baseball, yeah, he's not a fan of some of the new rules in baseball. And also, when he's talking about the struggles to start the season that we've all been discussing for the first 3 games, he's done with it already. Because he's in the same mindset that Kyle Schwarber is in already. It's just the beginning. Nobody's panicking. Nobody is sweating it out. Nobody is thinking that this is going to be the bar set for the rest of the season. Nobody is letting that pass through their mind. You think anybody in that dugout cares right now as to whether or not they've won a game? They're the only team that hasn't won a game in the National League. It's a rough start. That's what they're chalking up. Yes, they'd like to win. They're there to win, as Bryce Harper said last night. But this is the way, it's simply starting the season. This isn't how they're finishing the season. Everyone in that dugout has the right mindset, including their manager, Rob Thompson. After the game, he talked about the same thing. It's not the way you want it to begin, but it's simply the way that this season has started. All on the back burner now. Now they give it another go against the Yankees, and they hope that they can turn this around sooner rather than later, so we have something optimistic to talk about and not a winless baseball team. I'm not panicking. I'm not dooming the season. When the dark recesses of my mind start creeping in with their thoughts, oh, maybe this is a year to Joe. Not going to do it. I'm not going to do it right now. Simply a rough beginning to the year. Speaking of rough, the 76ers stepped foot on the basketball court last night in Milwaukee. 8 o'clock prime time start. There's a lot of TV last night with the Phillies and the women's the championship. A lot of stuff's going on last night. It's time we talk about James Harden's turnovers. This has not really been a thing for James Harden in his career. This is something that has reared its ugly head recently. And if you look at the last couple of games for James Harden, just for instance, 11 turnovers in his last 2 games when he's a guy that averages 3 maybe per game. 11 turnovers in his last 2. He's had 3 games of his last 4 where he's had 5 turnovers or more. That's an issue. And last night, you're seeing him play in the second quarter. You already had the Bucks with full momentum in this game. You get a big turnover at the top of the key. Drew Holiday on James Harden with a lazy behind-the-back pass. It goes the other way for 2 points. Then in the third quarter, you're making your run. James Harden has another turnover. Fourth quarter, making another run, attempting to at least in the early goings. And you turn the basketball over again. That is an issue when your point guard is unable to keep possession of the ball. Setting up your team to score is the better idea than setting up the other team to score. And it seemed like it was happening far too often over the last couple of games for James Harden. And guess what? You get a well-rested Celtics team coming up. Isn't that fun? Team you were trying to catch at some point in the standings. Now that just seems like a far cry before the season lets out, trying to get up to the number 2 seed. Cavs have had their issues. The Celtics have steadied their ship after having struggles. They've won 7 of their last 10, including a blowout win over the Bucks. So maybe that was why the Bucks had a bit of a chip on their shoulder coming into this game against the Sixers. But this was supposed to be one of those games where you have Joel Embiid reestablish himself as an MVP. I know a lot of people still thinking he's top dog, especially with Joker missing more and more games now. I believe 3 straight now for Nikola Jokic, the 3 straight games that he's missed, so that goes in Embiid's favor. But he come out in this game, and from jump, you just look flat. A team that's normally a pretty damn good defensive team in the 76ers come out and allow 41 points to the Bucks to start things off. It's wild to watch the way the Sixers started out that game. It's especially on the defensive end. 23 points, offensively speaking, is nothing worth bragging about either, by the way. So just flat, awful way to start off this game last night by the Sixers. And then in the third quarter, you start to make a bit of a run. You go down huge in this game. Next thing you know, you're in the third quarter. As we all know, basketball, a game of runs. You're down 4 points all of a sudden. Joel Embiid hits a nice little jump shot in the middle of the lane, and then another run by the Bucks. Another run by the Bucks where they're just able to go out there and seem like they can do whatever they want, whether it's Giannis going out there doing, whether it's Drew Holiday hitting shots from the outside, whether it's Porter hitting shots from the outside. Everybody for the Bucks just clicked it into the next gear. And that's why when you watch this Bucks team, you think to yourself, well, this is a team that wins a championship. This is a team that is able to make deep playoff runs. This is a team that has another perennial MVP candidate and an MVP already in Giannis Antetokounmpo. No fluidity to this team. And I can't believe what I heard, and I'll play it for you. But after the game, Doc Rivers actually took, wait for it, some responsibility for the game. I'm not kidding when I say that. Doc Rivers actually took some responsibility. Now, he didn't, come on, let's not get crazy. He didn't come out and say that this is my fault, this is my problem, this is my bad. He just generalized, very much generalized. This is coaching, wasn't issues tonight. Oh, interesting. Team comes out flat again, and this has happened many times before, where the Sixers have come out playing very flat, and you just hear Doc Rivers talk about how the Sixers got the brakes beat off them by a team that just, quote unquote, wanted it more. And he'll talk about turnovers. He'll talk about lack of execution, which means, as a coach, it means my ideas were great. They couldn't execute them. But he actually said that last night, and it came down to some coaching as well. Well, all right, fine. This is what last night's game did for me. It put the fear back in me about getting bounced out of the second round of the playoffs. I had been building up all this confidence. I had been building up all this these thoughts of being able to play in a conference final, about possibly being able to play into an NBA final. Oh, look at the way Joel Embiid's playing. James Harden's been struggling, but he needs some time off. And then I watched last night, and it kind of puts you right back in the place of this team can't make it out of the second round. It does have you wishing you could go back a couple of weeks where the Sixers were threatening the Celtics to maybe get into that second playoff seed, and they got into the second playoff seed, and they held it for about 20 minutes, and then they were out of it and back into the third playoff seed. But seeding is going to matter in a huge way for the Sixers, and I know you can look back at years past. You can look back at the Sixers having the number one seed when they got bounced out by the Hawks, and you can say, oh, well, nothing's safe. And you're right, nothing is safe, especially when it comes to the Sixers team. Seeding usually for the Sixers, as it goes in the past, doesn't really matter. But if you look at the 1, 2, 3 seeds right now in the Eastern Conference, I'm worried about the Bucks and facing them in the playoffs, right? I'm worried about the Celtics and facing them in the playoffs. It's been a huge problem for the Sixers in just in historic terms, not even just in recent memory. Those are the only 3 teams that I fear. I don't fear the Heat. I don't fear the Cavs, for instance. I don't fear the Knicks, for instance. These are all teams that the Sixers can beat in a 7-game series. That's why seeding, I think, more so than years past, really matters. I think you have 3 elite teams in the Eastern Conference, and then there's the rest of the pack. For the Sixers right now, it's a pipe dream to start talking about that number 2 seed. Not happening. But if you can still play like you're one of those top 3 teams and still play like you can give everybody else confidence that you're at least going to get to that second round again, which I believe the Sixers will, and then give everybody confidence again that you can get out of that second round finally, then everyone's going to be feeling a hell of a lot better by the time the season ends, which is just around the corner, by the way. So for me, what last night did was, again, put that thought back in my head, like, they are such a middling team. They'll have games, sure, where they beat the Bucks, and they have beat the Bucks. Those times where they'll put up a fight against the Celtics, and they've done that. But when it comes to ultimately, the big goal is winning a championship. I don't think anyone's thinking of winning a championship right now. I think a lot of fans have settled in the idea of, all right, let's just get out of the second round. Hopefully we can do that. And it's a building block to next year when Joel Embiid, by the way, at the end of the season will be 30. That dreaded 3-0 for a professional athlete. That's all we're asking for at this point. Yes, we want a championship. We want a parade. We'd love to see the Eastern Conference Finals. We'd love to see you win the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think most people are resigning themselves right now to just thinking, all right, maybe they can finally get out of the second round. And all will be right with the world. As far as last night's game, here is Doc Rivers talking about your 10-9-8 76ers and how they came out last night.
All the way around. They beat us in playing, coaching, energy, everything. You knew, they had 3 days to prepare. The last game they played, they got blown out. So this is a team that's won a title. They have a lot of pride. They showed that tonight. We didn't respond very well.
I know it's a make or miss league, but when they start off that hot offensively, just what are you guys trying to do, like on the fly to?
We didn't need to do anything on the fly, Gene. It'd be nice to just guard somebody, But a lot of that came off of dribble penetration. They just they got everything they wanted. There was no resistance early on, and then you get a team like that confident. It's hard to turn them off. I loved how we came out in the second half. I will say that at the beginning of the third, I think we cut it to 5, and then we had it at 8 right before the quarter. I thought that stretch to end the third quarter just killed us.
So you heard him say coaching. Players, lax execution, coaching, everything was wrong. Everything was bad. Coaching. He did say coaching. So that's good. And then the other part of it was, so what did you want to do tonight, Coach? I wanted somebody to play defense. Right back to the players. And yes, ultimately, always the players are number one to blame. Players are always who I look at more so than coaches. Because if players hit shots, all of a sudden, the coach looks pretty brilliant. It's funny how that works, right? Players don't hit shots, coach looks less brilliant. But when a team looks lethargic, when a team looks lazy with the basketball, especially if it's a veteran like James Harden, who doesn't historically turn the ball over at a horrible rate. I said again, 11 turnovers in his last 2 games. That's so good. He's had, one 20-point game in his last 5 games? That's not good. For James Harden, a guy who, by the way, is averaging 21 points per game plus, by the way. Assists have been his thing. He's leading the league assists. It's great. It shouldn't be a balance of, lead the league in assists and still have that same issue when it comes to turnovers. But the other thing that he got into there, aside from coaching, aside from defense, was just overall ball movement. And it wasn't in that clip, but it was, as he talked about it last night as his press conference went on. Talked about being able to spread the floor, talked about being able to get that type of spacing, talked about how the ball was never in one spot for too long, and they did that well coming out in the third quarter, and they finally got that lead down to 4, and then the Bucks decided to hit it in the overdrive again and go into the next level, and that's unfortunately what we were left with the Bucks going on a run, and the Sixers not being able to keep up. And then finally they went to the bench lineup again, and it was a bit of a rough one. Now, I hate to just reach for the optimistic point here, but Tyrese Maxey looks like he is back. And I know if you have other guys struggling, you need somebody else to step up. Tyrese Maxey has stepped up phenomenally well. 29-point game last night for the Sixers. It was really him and Joel Embiid leading the scoring. 28 by Embiid, 29 by Maxey. The next leading scorer for the Sixers had 11 points, and that was your boy, James Harden, who also capped off the night. I've been talking about his turnovers with 5 turnovers last night. Joel Embiid came up with just 1. You also had 10 points off the bench from Daniel House, which was nice to see. Hit a couple of threes for you. But Maxey has just been a deadlock 3-point shooter over the last month plus of the season, including dropping in 6 last night, 6 for 7 from beyond the arc. That's the type of output you want from a guy, especially the guy who's supposed to be the number 3 of this big 3. I know people love talking about Tobias Harris because of the money. Forget that. I like talking about talent. And Tyrese Maxey has that talent to help carry this team in a time of need, and that's exactly what they were in last night. He stepped up in a huge way. When you had James Harden struggling, pretty much everybody else, not named Joel Embiid, struggling in this lineup, Tyrese Maxey did exactly what you want him to do. He was the next up scorer after Joel Embiid. If James Harden's not clicking into high gear there, Tyrese Maxey can do that for you, and that's what he was able to do last night. So if I'm looking at some type of optimistic thing to pull out of last night's game, this is no moral victory. I think this is a fair assessment. I think Tyrese Maxey has continued to solidify, and they brought this up in the broadcast last night, about how he was struggling in the middle portion of the season, about how he didn't know his place in this offense, about how Doc Rivers had him on the bench. I mean, the guy finally earns the starting job. Ben Simmons drama, all that happens, and then he gets relegated to the bench. He performs at a very high level, gets into the starting lineup, stays in the starting lineup, helps carry the team when Joel Embiid was out last year with COVID. Joel Embiid has another injury this year. He steps in. He plays the role phenomenally well. He misses some time himself, comes back. He's coming off the bench for some ungodly reason, and then he comes into this game again and starts solidifying himself as a starter. Oh, and by the way, the first game he's a starter again, he only has to go out there and face Kyrie Irving. He comes out, doesn't play well defensively in that game, but since then you've seen his defense improve, and since then you've seen his offense improve. He has overall become a better basketball player since coming back into the starting lineup, which you, me, and the vast majority of Sixers fans were all screaming and yelling for Doc Rivers to do. Finally, he did it, and this team has been rewarded for it. Last night, unfortunately, team-wise, they were not rewarded with a victory. But as far as his individual play, you're going to need that guy come playoff time. You have another struggle from James Harden, maybe in the first round, second round. You let a game slip away. Maybe a game is slipping away, and then somebody comes in and wipes away the grease and says, no, we're staying right here. We're keeping the lead, and that's a guy like Tyrese Maxey. Obviously, it's Joel Embiid. It's always Joel Embiid, MVP of the team. Now with Joker missing time as well, I believe the MVP of the league. But you need somebody else to always be second in command there when it comes to scoring, when it comes to getting buckets. And that so far, I think, is going to be Tyrese Maxey when it comes crunch time. James Harden, I think, is going to be the facilitator. He's going to be the quarterback. He's going to get his shots off, of course. He's going to have his 20-point games, 25-point games, whatever. But I think the guy to do it with consistency and versatility is going to be Tyrese Maxey. So if I'm taking one bright light out of last night's game, it's Maxey's performance. Yes, the box score looks great, but the way he was able to do it in last night's game, being able to get to the rim, being able to get fouled, being able to go to the line last night, being able to attack consistently is what you want to see consistently from Tyrese Maxey as this season goes on. The other guy that you could definitely take away a nice performance for. Yeah, Daniel House, fine offensively. Paul Reed, for everyone that was rooting for him, has earned the 76ers backup role. And there was an instance last night two instances last night with Paul Reed on the floor that I laughed out loud, and both were in that third quarter. You had one instance where Paul Reed had the ball around the top of the key. Giannis was on him. Paul Reed was trying to, I think, give a bounce pass to George Niang from three-point line, beyond the three-point line, and wasn't there. Defense took it away, dribbles between his legs, looks around. He's now wide open at the top of the key. No, Giannis is like maybe 5 feet from him. And he still didn't want to take Giannis. Just was looking for anybody to give the basketball away to. Looking around. Finally, shot clock starts winding down. Paul Reed had the basketball in his possession for like 6 seconds, which is an eternity in Paul Reeddom, okay? And then he decides, all right, well, I guess I got to take it. And he takes it, and he actually gets the layup on Giannis Antetokounmpo. How about that for the Greek Freak? Where's your defense at, son? And then on the other end, he actually stopped Giannis from attacking the rim. So it was within, I think, about a 2-minute span. Paul Reed got that play in the third quarter. And then on the other end, actually stopped. You were at a +2 on Giannis Antetokounmpo for those two possessions, Paul Reed. Keep it coming, fella. He had 8 points for the Sixers last night and 10 rebounds in just 13 minutes off the bench for the Sixers backup center, which was very nice to see. Sixers, by the way, are going to get a very well-rested Boston Celtics team coming up tomorrow night, by the way. That tip-off is going to be a 7 o'clock tip-off, I believe. Excuse me, 8 o'clock tip-off. That'll be on TNT tomorrow night. Sixers host the Boston Celtics in South Philadelphia tomorrow night. Boston, they've been off since Friday. So you want to talk about this Bucks team having a nice little layoff there, coming out to beat the Sixers behind last night? Well, Celtics are going to get a very similar time off. So good for them. Celtics and Sixers, by the way, coming into this game, Celtics have 54 wins. Sixers have 51 wins on the season. So that's where we're at right now in the basketball world. Before I get to this history lesson, it's wild. We'll get to it in a second. But with Howie Roseman and Terrell Owens, because this is fascinating. Let me tell you, Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For all the people that want to take advantage of the great perfect price at Steven Singer Jewelers, do so at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. One place, one price, the perfect price online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Now, what's the perfect price? Well, other jewelers are marking things way up just to mark them down a couple of bucks. Steven Singer is right there waiting for you with that perfect price. Now, what's the perfect price? Well, other jewelers market things way up just to mark it down a couple of hundred, $500 off, because you like your smile. You're not going to worry about the negotiating. You're not going to worry about haggling. You don't have to worry about whether or not you've been taken advantage of. At Steven Singer Jewelers, you get the perfect price. No promo code, no sale. The sale's every day. The other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price. The perfect price online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about the great people of Manscaped. Manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping when it comes to Manscaped.com when you use promo code Farzy. Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology. You'll enjoy their Platinum Package 4.0, which includes their 4.0 lawnmower, as well as their amazing Weed Whacker 4.0, which is incredible. Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risk of nicks so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. Go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. How about the amazing people at Freestone Farm CBD? You like CBD? You use CBD? You want to switch up your CBD? Try Freestone Farm CBD at freestonefarmcbd.com. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. It's perfect when you're winding down after a long day or cooling off after a workout. Trying to lull yourself to sleep at night? Freestone Farm CBD at freestonefarmcbd.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping at Freestone Farm CBD, freestonefarmcbd.com. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's phlsportstation.com. Before I get to the chat check, both on Jacob Media and the Farzy Show, folks, I just want to go back in a time machine for a second, okay? 2004, a young Mark Farzetta going into his junior year, at Temple University. And we've just watched the Eagles lose 3 conference championships. We've seen the Eagles struggle. We buried the link. We buried the vet. We moved into the link, and still the same struggles. And then a bright light. After all the disappointments, the great seasons that ended in disappointment, after all that, after screaming and yelling for the Philadelphia Eagles and Andy Reid, to get a number 1 wide receiver for the great Donovan McNabb. This is the line of demarcation, by the way. This is where it started, at least. This is where it started being drawn in the Reid McNabb era. And I'm sitting there, right, in my house in Powelton Village with my buddies and I at this house together. Right? It was great. And I had to drive across town to go to Temple. I'm an idiot. Anyway, I'm sitting there, and I see the news come up on my AOL dial-up. Terrell Owens to the Eagles. What? No way. This is incredible. Like, finally, this guy, 32 years old, Pro Bowler, best receiver in the game. You could say him, Randy Moss, whatever, but still, in my book, the best. He's coming to Philadelphia. He's coming to be a target for Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid's offense. This West Coast offense is going to go next level. At that time, like, Todd Pinkston had been running fly routes, okay? He'd been running go routes. He'd been running posts, and Donovan was still having success with him. Now imagine him throwing to T.O. So let's just put ourselves 20 years ago, for all the young kids watching this, the excitement that you had, okay? A.J. Brown coming to town, people acknowledging that as, this is the best since T.O. It was still 10 times that when T.O. came to Philly. We thought this was the line of DRL. This is, no more horrible disappointments. This is going to be fantastic the way the Eagles are going to end their seasons now. Fast forward a year and a half. It's all over. We have the Super Bowl loss. T.O. fights his way back to play. Broken fibula. Okay. Comes back and plays. And then the offseason, the contract, the scuttlebutt with Donovan McNabb, T.O. getting thrown out of practice, T.O. going home, the sit-ups on the front lawn. I was there for that, by the way. And Drew Rosenhaus, next question. T.O.'s officially released. Apparently, right before T.O. was actually physically released from the Eagles, he had a little impromptu meeting with Howie Roseman. Then he was not the front office guru that he is today. Howie Roseman was still working his way up from an intern in the front office under the Joe Banner era of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Jeffrey Lurie, obviously, era of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Howie goes up and goes on the New Heights podcast with Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce, which is a boatload of fun if you don't listen to it. It's a good time. And Howie goes in and starts telling the story about T.O. And during that skirmish, which includes my buddy Hugh Douglas, going in there and having a fight with T.O. And I've heard accounts of this story from many different sources. My man Trey Thomas has talked about this, where he just saw Hugh after the fight and Hugh was all winded. And he was like, "What'd you do?" And he's like, "Brother, man, no, what'd you do?" He's like, "I just got a little skirmish with T.O., whatever." Well, Howie had his own recount of not just the fight in the whirlpool at the NovaCare complex, but had his own recount of T.O. having his issues with Andy Reid, the rest of the front office, some teammates, some former teammates like you. And Howie said that everyone was exhausted. By the time the bye week rolled around, everybody was done. Like, things still had to go to an arbitrator after everything hit the fan to work out contracts, the release, and all that stuff, and how it was going to go down. So Howie Roseman decides, I'm going to go to South Beach. He's telling the story on New Heights podcast. I'm going to go to South Beach. I'm going to go to Miami. I'm going to just hang out. I'm going to get some sun. I'm going to relax, get away from all this T.O. drama. So Howie boards the plane, sits down. Plane's a little delayed and taken off. There's a seat open in front of Howie. They're waiting for one more passenger to come on the flight. And who is the one more passenger to come on the flight? None other than the man, Howie Roseman, and probably every other Eagle is trying to escape, Terrell Owens. Comes in, sits in front of Howie, and according to Howie Roseman, T.O. reclined his seat with great aggression right into the lap of Howie Roseman. And Howie's like, great, okay, fine. That's a topic for another day. Maybe they'll add that to the 5 questions about actually being able to recline your seat, yay or nay. So Howie gets T.O.'s seat in his lap, basically, and they get off the flight. Howie says something along the lines of, hey, have a nice time off or whatever, and T.O. allegedly, according to Howie Roseman, turns around and says, bleep you, and gets off the flight. T.O., being T.O., saw some smoke about him and decided, oh, I'm here for a fight. And then on Twitter starts responding to Howie Roseman's story, saying, I remember the flight. Don't remember that. Glad you remember, though. See ya. And then he, of course, hints at him not being the problem in Philadelphia by saying, hey, maybe ask Howie about what really went down, who was really the problem in Philadelphia, why they didn't have more success in Philadelphia while I was there. And everyone who I think knows anything realizes he's hinting at Donovan McNabb being more of a problem than T.O. was the problem. I'm going to take you through this because this is something we're not just going to be talking about 20 years from it actually happening. This is going to be something we're going to talk about 30 years from it happening. This is something, oh my God, we're going to be talking about 40 years till it happened. I wasn't even alive yet. I was negative 22 years old when Chuck Bednarik won a championship with the Philadelphia Eagles, all right? But people still talk about it. We talk about what could have been. Hey, we're still talking about Joe Carter, all right? That's still 30 years ago. 30 years since the 93 Phillies. But I remember it. Was not fun for my childhood. We're still going to be talking about T.O. Here's where I'm at now. And let me know where you guys are at in the chat. Now, this subject has reared its ugly head yet again. In the early goings of this, when it was all going down, I blamed Joe Banner. I was mad at Joe Banner. I was mad at Jeffrey Lurie. Put your arm around T.O. What a heroic performance from T.O. to fight his way back from week 13, breaking his fibula, to now he's playing in the Super Bowl. I remember it was said at the time, and who said it? Well, T.O., of course. T.O. said at the time, if it was anybody else, if it was Brett Favre, oh, man, if it was Brett Favre, you guys would be like, well, what a warrior. But it's me. It's T.O., so it's, he just wants to make it about himself. I loved it. I thought T.O. was the greatest thing since sliced bread. It was amazing. And my blame was to Joe Banner as Jeffrey Lurie, get this guy signed. Well, he's under contract. I remember Banner well, he's under contract, so we just can't just give him money. If we just give him money, we can't just give him money because it's our money, and he's under contract, and he can't have any money. In my mind, Joe Banner is a slight English accent. But anyway, that was the way that it was playing out in my mind. They just wouldn't give him the money. This was the guy that was the difference between losing NFC championship games and actually being a real, legit Super Bowl contender. Oh, they didn't win the NFC championship game with T.O. Yeah, I understand that. But he played in the Super Bowl. He's your best player. So my blame initially was with Joe Banner and Jeffrey Lurie. And the more I think about it, I don't really shift blame. I just find new people to blame. So I still don't like the fact that Joe Banner and Jeffrey Lurie didn't take care of the T.O. Because if they did, then we'd be talking about another Super Bowl championship. I guarantee that. Then I blame Donovan McNabb. Because Donovan had been through the disappointing losses. Donovan himself had been through injury. Donovan had not been in the Super Bowl before T.O. got to Philadelphia. And I'm thinking, Donovan, protect your asset, man. This is the guy that's going to make your job a hell of a lot easier. You want to win a Super Bowl? Or you want to be known as the guy that just couldn't win the big game? Well, the best asset you have to do it is right there. His name's Terrell Owens. Put your arm around him. Embrace him. Bring him into the fold even more. Go to bat for this guy. I'm not going to go to bat for this guy. I don't talk about other players' contracts. 2 weeks later, hey, Brian Westbrook's holding out. Do you think he should play? I think Brian Westbrook should get his money. What? Hey, we all love B. West, and I love B. West, but you're going to go to bat for him, or you're not going to go to bat for T.O.? By going to bat for Brian Westbrook and not going to bat for T.O., that's a slap in the face to T.O. Everybody knows it. And it's almost like he's doing it deliberately for Westbrook to highlight the fact that he's not doing it for T.O. So then I was mad at Donovan. And here's where I'm at now. And I'm still mad at Donovan. I'm still mad at Jeffrey Lurie. I'm still mad at Joe Banner. The fact that the Eagles finally won a Super Bowl hasn't really made this go away. So now, here's where I've been over the last couple of times that this has come up. I'm just pissed at everybody, and I'm pissed at T.O. too. Because T.O. is a guy that had issues everywhere. And I know that we can look back at stat sheets. You know what's funny? T.O., 2 seasons with the Eagles, including 1 season where he only played 7 games. T.O. still led the Eagles that year in receiving yards. 2 years in Philadelphia, 2-time receiving champ, I guess, for the Eagles. 2-time receiving leader for the Eagles. His last game, he had like 150-plus yards on 3 catches against the Broncos, I want to say. And the Eagles lost that game. One was a 91-yard reception. I remember that for a touchdown. But no, the more this goes on, the more I do put a lot of blame on T.O. And look, everyone is at fault. T.O. was a problem everywhere he went. Maybe Donovan could have solved the problem. Maybe Joe Banner and Jeffrey Lurie could have solved the problem by paying him his money. But the more I become removed from it, I realize that even if Joe Banner did pay him, even if Jeffrey Lurie approved the payment, even if Donovan McNabb went to bat for T.O., even if everyone put their arms around T.O. and coddled him, there was probably, most likely, if we're being real, another problem just around the corner for Terrell Owens. There was always something everywhere. Oh, Jason Witten and Tony Romo are talking too much. They're designing plays without me. Remember that story? Yeah, I know that everyone in Dallas, you want to talk about T.O. and popcorn in Dallas. Everyone wants to talk about, that's my quarterback. But what they forget is the other stuff. Oh, Tony Romo, Jason Witten, they're designing plays without me. Yeah, T.O. he's got issues, man. Yeah, he's had issues everywhere he's went, everywhere he's gone. One of my favorite quotes, though, when I had a chance to talk to T.O. One-on-one one time, I mentioned that he was, I think, 3 touchdowns behind Randy Moss for second all-time. T.O. is about to be 50. At the time, I think he was 43. And I posed that to him, and I said, you're 3 behind Moss, whatever. And he goes, 3, I'll get that in a game. I just remember thinking, this guy, the confidence is never going to be waiting from Terrell Owens. So where do you put the blame most? I'll go to the root of the source. I'll go to Banner and Lurie for just giving him more money. I'll go to Donovan. I still go with that order, but really they're all at fault. But where do you put the blame more in that regard when it comes to the T.O. debacle not working out here in Philadelphia? Let's get to the chat check. Ladies and gentlemen, see how you beautiful people are doing on this fine day. Where am I at here? What am I doing? What page am I on? Here we go. Let's start it off with the Farzy Show, fine people. See you guys doing on this fine, fine day. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Fuji. Good morning, Sean. Kilrain, what's going on? Season's still early with the Phillies. And you're damn right it is. Morning, PJ. Oh, wait, hold on. Old Head Young Bull. Welcome to the show. Nice to see you. Top of the morning to you as well. Only 100-something games left. Yes, that's very true. We'll be okay. I agree. Fuji, April, baseball, folks, a long season. Damn right, it's a long season. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget it. But let's forget how I run the chat. There we go. And we're all having fun. We're all having fun here. Fuji, Taiwan Walker gets the first win of the Phillies season. I'll cross my fingers for that one. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Sean Gillespie. Duck Rivers, as he's become known on this show for ducking responsibility. Duck Rivers took some responsibility playing like playing to the lottery now. There you go. There you go, Sean. Oh, Fuji, you have Taiwan Walker in your fantasy. Good for you. T-Bro, what's up, T-Bro? Maxie's stepping up with the step-back threes. How about them step-back threes he was hitting last night? The one he had in was it the early fourth quarter or late third quarter? Probably late third quarter. He took like 3 steps back. He had a dribble. It wasn't a travel. It was pretty incredible. Incredible. Fuji, great impression of Joe Banner. Don't encourage me in my impressions, okay? Don't encourage me. You know how much I have to fight the urge whenever I'm telling a story of other people, how much I have to fight the urge of doing some terrible version of their voice? At the Wings game last night, one of the officials during pregame warm-ups when we're just making our regular announcement. By the way, Wings won in overtime last night. Joe Resetarits making things happen, by the way. Great game. Great game for the Wings. If you haven't been to a Wings game, get to a Wings game. Probably the last home game of the year, but for next year, put it in the back burner. But don't encourage my Joe Banner impressions. But anyway, the referee comes over to me. And he's just like, hell of a set of pipes you got there. I go, oh, thanks, man. I got this and a bad Christopher Walken. He's like, and he walks away. And that was a stupid story. I'm sorry. But the point is, don't put the quarter in the impression machine. April, T.O. had issues on multiple teams. He was a fantastic player, but his ego was always in the way. T.O. and 5 could not exist long-term on the same team. They both had big egos. April, well said. Mihai, what's up, Mihai Sanchez? Good morning to you. Braves started 0-3 in 2021. McNabb almost at fault for the Super Bowl for Super Bowl 39. Bothers me way more than Super Bowl 57. I hate how we only have one Super Bowl ring. Mihai, we all agree with that. T.O. played his heart out for the team. He had every right to be upset with McNabb. Eagles franchise, imagine it would be so much better if we had 2 rings right now. Anybody could win one time. Not anybody. Lions. To the Eagles and Donovan are all at fault. Should have put egos aside and won. You know, I agree, but damn, that's hard. Sean Gillespie, I heard walking. You must do it for Jacob Media. I don't know about that. I don't know if Jacob wants me to do that. Oh, wow. Oh, Bull. What's up, man? They're both chats. Look at you. Bull, as much as I love my Sixers, now I'm on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. As much as I was saying, Giannis the MVP, Joel gave it away when he decided to sit out against Jokic. He had it wrapped up if he played. But here's the deal. Like, the MVP award in the NBA, you could say that they've done this for a while, but like at least Jordan won it 5 times. I know there was another time thrown in there where Charles Barkley won in 93, and then the Bulls took care of business against the Suns in the finals, as we all know. But then Jordan stepped away, probably would have won the MVP again if he didn't go play baseball. Like, you're looking at potentially a 7-time MVP in Michael Jordan. This idea of voter fatigue. Oh, I'm so exhausted. Giannis. Oh, God. Oh, I got a cramp. Nikola Jokic. Oh, my God. This voting fatigue is crazy. Who is the best player? Who's the most valuable player in the NBA? To me, it's Giannis. It's like Giannis. Joker being in the conversation. Like, I love Joel Embiid, and I love Joker's game too. Don't get me wrong, but he's just not as good as Joel Embiid. But if we're talking about both those guys, then we're looking at Giannis, a guy who's been an MVP, a guy who's still performing at an insanely high level, and a guy who's already won a championship. Oh, Joker gets it, can't even win in the playoffs. Oh, McNabb, jeez, Freudian. Embiid. He goes into the playoffs, he can't get out of the second round. Why is he even getting the MVP? Well, Giannis is a proven winner. Giannis has won. Giannis has won an MVP. He's won a title. Like, who? Why are we even talking about anybody else? Oh, fatigue. Give it to somebody else. These aren't participation trophies. These are MVP awards for the entire MVP, the entire NBA. This isn't perfect attendance. No. Best player, most valuable player. Giannis, to me, is if you're drafting in the NBA for just next season, not for overall long career, are you taking Embiid before you're taking Giannis? Are you taking Joker before you're taking Giannis? I don't think anyone's taking anyone before Giannis. This is just for 1 year. I mean, John Morant, whatever. Okay, fine. But just for 1 year, for winning tomorrow, I think most people are drafting Giannis before they're drafting Embiid or Joker. And I love both those players. Embiid above all else. And he's going to be the MVP this year. Now the Joker's missing time. And this voter fatigue is just so nasty. It's going to be Joel Embiid. Yes, he deserves it. But it's just this weird thing about how you've won once, you start to get less consideration. You won twice, forget about it. Bonkers to me, man. So old bull, or excuse me, old head, young bull. Excuse me. I'm not necessarily far off with you. Go Sixers says only. I think that's a typo. It's an I instead of an O, so I'll just say Doc. Only Doc. Another Freudian. Only. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you're saying Doc down there. Okay. Only Doc can be bummed for the playoffs. But we need to let Doc go no matter the outcome. Let Sam Cassell take over. Go Sixers weekend was brutal. I agree with you. Thibault sucks. What the hell? What are you talking about Thibault? Talking about youth and all that stuff. Tyrese reminds me of Ben. He just can't pass as well. Oh, Thibault reminds me of Ben. He just can't pass as well. Thibault at least wants to play basketball. Man, old head, you are just going off on this. Joker should be penalized in the MVP voting for missing games like they've done to JoJo the past few years. I don't disagree with that. He's earned it in your eyes. That's good. Imagine if T.O. stayed, 2 rings, that era. I'm taking honest facts. They did LeBron dirty a few years. Yeah, they did do LeBron dirty a few years. But not so much now. Thanks everybody in the chat, both Jacob Media and Farzy Show. Much appreciated. Thank you guys very much. Let's get into the morning rush. Brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Phillies back at it tonight. They got a game against the New York Yankees. They start a 3-game set with the Yankees before coming home Thursday for their home opener. Can't wait for that. Phillies 0-3 on the season. As I have mentioned, Taijuan Walker gets the start against the lefty Nestor Cortez. He'll get the start for the Yankees tonight. Look forward to seeing who's at first base tonight. Look forward to see if Derek Hall's even in the lineup. Gave him the night off last night. Had the pinch hit appearance in the 9th inning to try to tie things up. Didn't happen. Derek Hall, obviously, all his 9 home runs last year were against right-handed pitching. Did not hit a home run off left-handed pitching. If they are going to give him the sink or swim moment to take the first base job, I want him at first base tonight and in the lineup against the lefty. Sink or swim. Go out there. Have at it, young bull. Have at it. 7:05 start time in the Bronx tonight for the Phillies. As figure 10-9-8 76ers, they're back at it against the Celtics tomorrow night. 8 o'clock start time. As I mentioned, and this is just silly to me, but it's true. The Boston Celtics have not played since last Friday. They put a whooping on the Bucks, 140-99. That was the game that Doc Rivers was referring to. That was last Thursday. Then Friday, they played the back-to-back. That game against the Bucks was on the road in Milwaukee. Flew home to take care of business against the Utah Jazz. They won that game 122-114. Then they were off Saturday, Sunday, off Monday, and then back at it tomorrow night for an 8 o'clock nationally televised game on the road against the Sixers. The Sixers, by the way, I mentioned their win total on the season here, but the Sixers, I want to make sure I get this in here with their schedule here. This should be, when it comes to the Sixers schedule, as I just lose everything on my computer, on my Surface. Miscusi, bear with me. Looking at the end of the season here for the Sixers, they got Boston, Miami, Atlanta on the road, and then Brooklyn on the road. So 4 games left on the season schedule for the Sixers, 2 at home, and then 2 on the road to round things out. But they got Miami at 7:30 tip-off, Atlanta 7:30 tip-off, and then 1 o'clock game in Brooklyn to round out their season against the Nets. So look forward to that game tonight for a 8 o'clock tip-off. Tomorrow night, excuse me. And then tonight, how about this? I want to give a lot of credit here to the Philadelphia Flyers for a second. And they lost last night to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't know if you could have given a better send-off to Steve Coates for his years of service to the game of hockey, for his years in Philadelphia covering the game of hockey, Coates' corner, all that. When I think of my childhood as a Philadelphia Flyers fan, I think of Steve Coates. I think of Eric Lindros and John LeClaire and Eric Desjardins. I think of those guys on the ice. I think of version 2 of Ron Hextall. And I think of Jim Jackson, Gary Dornhofer, and I think of Steve Coates. and always looking forward to the first period intermission for Coates' Corner. And then getting to know Steve Coates. I got to get him on the show. And then getting to know Steve Coates in my career. And just, he's one of those guys you just really look forward to being around. And if you're around him and let's say Bob the Hound Kelly or Bernie Perrott all at the same time, there is no bigger party than those guys to sit with and listen to stories, listen to the way they talk. And congratulations to Steve Coates on a phenomenal career. You have made hockey in Philadelphia so damn enjoyable. You will be missed. Enjoy your retirement, Steve Coates. As for the Flyers, they did lose last night. They got the Blues coming up tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, and they'll round out there. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. For everyone on the Jacob Media YouTube channel, Xander Krause produced the program, as well as on the fine people here at the Farzy Show. Jim Hyden produced the show over here. Appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Be back with you guys tomorrow with hopefully talking about a Phillies win and get you guys ready for Sixers Celtics. Tip it off tomorrow night. Have a great day, everybody. Oh, more of me later today, 7:45. I'll be on Fox 29 as well. Have a great day, everybody. See ya.